The flickering "Open" sign buzzed weakly in the dark window of a small roadside store, the kind of place travelers passed without noticing. Inside, only one light remained on, a dim yellow glow behind the counter where Emma, a young cashier barely out of college, was counting bills and humming softly to herself. It was past closing time. The shelf stood quiet. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound left. She glanced at the clock. 11:42 p.m., almost done, she whispered, stuffing the last of the cash into the drawer. She was tired but peaceful, that kind of tired where the silence almost feels safe. Then, the bell above the door jingled. Emma's head snapped up. "Sorry, we're closed," she said quickly, forcing a polite smile. But the three men who walked in didn't look like they'd come to buy anything. They were rough, tall, smelling of cigarettes and cheap whiskey. The tallest one grinned, tapping a finger against the counter. "Oh, come on, sweetheart. You can let us in for a minute. We just want to talk." Emma stepped back a little, clutching the counter. "You can't be here. The store's closed. Please leave." The men exchanged looks, their grins widening. "You hear that, boys? She's giving us orders." The smallest one laughed. "Cute." Emma's chest tightened. "Please," she said again, her voice trembling now. "I'll call the police." The tall one leaned over the counter, his voice turning sharp. "You think the cops care about a store this far out of town?" His hand reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She flinched. But what none of them saw was the faint reflection in the cooler glass behind them. Three shapes sitting at the far end of the store. Leather jackets. Patches stitched with skulls and wings. Boots heavy against the tiled floor. One of them, a broad man with a beard and a scar across his cheek, took a sip from his bottle of soda and muttered, "You hearing this?" His friend grinned. "Yeah, seems like the lady could use some help." The leader stood up slowly, the chain on his wallet clinking against his jeans. "Then let's make it quick," he said quietly, but polite. The tall thug was still smirking down at Emma. "You look scared, sweetheart." "Don't be. We ain't gonna hurt you." A deep voice cut through the room. "You sure about that?" The thugs turned fast. From the far aisle, three bikers stepped into the light, black leather vests, boots, and cold, steady eyes that didn't blink. The leader, known only as Brick, cracked his neck once and said, "You boys lost." The smallest thug laughed nervously. "Who the hell are you?" Brick's voice was calm, low, and dangerous. "People who don't like seeing women scared." Emma froze behind the counter, her eyes wide. She knew the bikers. They'd been in earlier that night, polite, quiet, buying drinks before the storm rolled in. She hadn't realized they were still there. The tall thug tried to recover his confidence. "Hey, we're just talking, man. Mind your business." Brick took one slow step forward. "See, that's where you're wrong," he said, rolling his sleeves up. "She is our business now." The store fell silent, the air heavy enough to choke on. The men stared at each other, three thugs against three angels, and it was about to go very badly for the wrong side. The tall thug sneered, trying to hold his ground, but Brick's eyes didn't move. They were cold, steady, and unreadable. "You really want to do this?" Brick asked softly, voice deep enough to rattle the shelves. "You want to scare a woman half your size while men twice your size are watching?" The thug laughed nervously, glancing at his friends. "We're not scared of you, old man." Brick took one step closer. "Then you're dumber than you look." The one with the cigarette flicked ash onto the floor. "You don't know who you're talking to." Brick smirked. "Neither do you." Before anyone could blink, he grabbed the man's wrist midair, twisting it until the cigarette dropped and the thug screamed. The other two lunged, but the other bikers were faster. One shoved a metal chair aside, slamming the shorter one against a rack of chips, while the third biker caught the last thug by the jacket and pinned him to the counter. Emma gasped, backing away, her heart pounding. The sound of fists hitting flesh echoed through the aisles, followed by the crash of a shelf tipping over. It was quick, brutal, but clean. The bikers didn't beat them senseless. They made a point. When it was over, Brick leaned over the tall thug, who was now on his knees, breathing hard, his pride bleeding faster than his nose. "You ever scare another woman again," Brick said, his voice low and sharp, "and I'll make sure you can't even look one in the eye." The thug tried to speak, but Brick cut him off. "Apologize." The man hesitated. Brick's boot pressed lightly against his chest. "Now." The thug looked up at Emma, his lips split. I'm sorry," he muttered. Brick turned to the others. You heard him. All of you. They stumbled through their apologies, eyes full of fear. Good, Brick said, stepping back. Now take your sorry hides and get out. They didn't wait. They bolted through the door, tripping over each other as the rain outside swallowed them. Emma stood there, frozen, the sound of her heartbeat louder than the storm. Brick picked up her fallen receipt roll, set it back on the counter, and gave her a small nod. You okay, sweetheart? Her voice cracked. Why, yeah. Thank you. He smiled faintly. No need. We were just finishing our drinks. The other two chuckled, brushing dust from their vests. One of them grabbed a broom and started setting the tipped shelf upright again. Can't leave a mess behind, he said. Old habits die hard. Emma stared at them, still trying to process what just happened. You didn't even know me. Brick shrugged. Didn't have to. You treat people right when you can. That's how it's supposed to work. Outside, the engine started again, the deep roar rolling through the rain like thunder from another world. Emma stepped to the door as they rode off into the night, the neon sign flickering against the puddles. She whispered, "Thank you," even though they couldn't hear her. The rain outside turned heavier, washing away the dirt and footprints the thugs had left behind. The store was quiet again, except for the hum of the coolers and the soft rattle of thunder. Emma stood by the counter, still shaken, still trying to believe what had just happened. She bent down to pick up the scattered items from the floor when the door creaked open once more. Her breath caught. For a second, she thought the thugs had come back. But when she looked up, it was Brick, the biker leader, standing there again, rain dripping off his leather jacket. He walked in slow, silent, his boots echoing against the tile. Forgot something, he said, holding up a black glove he'd left on the table. Emma smiled nervously, clutching the edge of the counter. You scared me, she said. He nodded once. Good. Means you're still alert. He looked around the store, checking the door, the aisles, everything, like a man used to making sure danger didn't come back. They won't bother you again, he said. Not after tonight. Emma swallowed, her eyes soft. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, he said simply. But next time someone scares you, don't beg them to stop. You look him in the eyes and stand tall. Fear only works if you feed it. She nodded slowly, his words sinking in. Were you really just sitting here the whole time? Brick smirked. Yeah, we were taking a break. Long ride from Arizona. Thought we'd grab a drink before heading out. He paused, then added, didn't plan on saving anyone tonight. Guess fate had other ideas. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. You really didn't have to get involved. He tilted his head, his expression softening. That's the thing about good people, he said. They never think they deserve help. But they do. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Brick glanced toward the door. We'll be back this way in a few weeks. You see those guys again, you call this number. He pulled out a card, black, plain, with a small emblem of a winged skull. Ask for Brick. Emma took it carefully, her fingers brushing his. You're not what people say about bikers. He gave a faint smile, eyes crinkling at the edges. Yeah, the road's got enough villains. We don't need to be one more. He started toward the door, but stopped halfway, glancing back. You should lock up now. Long night's over. I will, she said softly. As he stepped outside, thunder cracked in the distance. The parking lot lit up as the other bikers revved their engines, headlights piercing the rain. Brick slipped on his gloves, swung onto his bike, and with a nod to his crew, they rolled out into the night, a line of steel ghosts vanishing into the storm. Emma locked the door behind them and stood there for a long time, the sound of their engines fading into the distance. For the first time that night, she smiled, not out of relief, but out of awe, because she knew she'd just witnessed something rare, a moment when darkness met kindness, and kindness won. By morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the road slick and glimmering under the soft gold of sunrise. Emma unlocked the store again, the smell of coffee brewing filling the air. It was quiet, peaceful, the kind of quiet that comes only after chaos has burned itself out. She glanced at the door where the bikers had stood the night before. On the glass, in the corner, she noticed something new, a small sticker, left behind like a calling card. It was the insignia of the Hells Angels, faded but unmistakable, and written beneath it in black marker were the words, "No one messes with family." Emma smiled faintly, her chest tightening in the best way, not from fear, but from warmth. She traced the corner of the sticker with her fingertip, remembering the deep rumble of engines and the sound of Brick's voice telling her, "Fear only works if you feed it." When her boss came in an hour later, she was wiping down the counter, humming softly. He frowned at the neat shelves and clean floor. "Did you come in early?" he asked. Emma shook her head. "No, just had a little help last night." He raised a brow. "Help?" She smiled, a secret glimmer in her eyes. "Let's just say, the angels were watching." Outside, on the edge of town, Brick and his crew rolled down the open highway, the world around them glowing in the morning light. One of his men grinned. "You ever think about how people talk about us, boss? The stories they make up?" Brick smirked under his helmet. "Let him talk. The truth doesn't need defending." As they roared past a faded road sign that read "Welcome to Redridge," the engines thundered across the hills, carrying a promise that not all heroes wear badges or halos. Some carry scars, ride steel, and show up when the world least expects it. Back at the store, Emma poured herself a cup of coffee, the sticker gleaming softly under the sunlight. She whispered, "Thank you," knowing they couldn't hear it, but somehow she felt they did. If this story moved you, share it. Somewhere out there, someone might need to remember that kindness isn't weakness, it's armor. Because sometimes, the strongest angels don't fly, they ride.